Good morning, people of the earth.
We interrupt our program at the request of the White House.
This is a test.
Some very strange events have been taking place recently.
The emergency broadcast system,
This is only a test.
furnishing news, official information, and instruction as soon as possible.
Is there a point to all this? Let's find a point. The world is like a ride at an amusement park.
This is only a test.
This is just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money. A choice right now between fear and love.
A small group of warriors have taken up the fight on your behalf.
It's been activated to keep you informed.
The earth is where we make our stand.
You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful.
People of the earth.
People of Earth.
If you are not,
People.
tune to a station furnishing information for your area.
All right, and we are back. People, good people. I've brought you another one of my absolute favorites in the Bay Area comedy scene, someone who has become genuinely one of my best friends in comedy and one of my best friends in life. Very funny dude, got his start. He's the co-founder of the Kind of Funny production company. Is it the Kind of Funny network or production? Well, let's just get him in here to talk about it. Please
Kind of funny. Yeah.
welcome Nick Scarpino.
Am I on yet? What's up? Hey, thanks for having me.
Here he is.
Everyone. Very excited to be here. Very excited to be your first ever guest on this amazing podcast.
You're the second guest.
Awesome that you came to me, your closest friend and confidant, to help you break this out. First, very excited about that.
You are our first virtual guest, so we wanted to have some sort of new ground for you to be able to break. So,
No, yeah, God forbid I sit in the space where I podcast 9 hours a day and I do your virtual. No, I'm kidding. You of course invited me, and we decided that hey, we're gonna do this virtual stuff because you guys wanted to test this out, and it's looking real good. I think your set looks good.
Thank you very much. No, you've been very helpful in getting this infrastructure set up so we could have virtual guests, but we did want to have you in here. We were willing to make all sorts of compromises. We were going to put up a plexiglass wall right here so I could stick my nipple up to it. You could give me smooches just like we did before I was locked up.
But it turns out that I am lazy and leaving my house. I literally, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, did I leave my house today? Have you guys had one of those days yet in COVID where it's like 2 days straight? I'm like, I have to fucking just go get a Diet Coke at the convenience store because I haven't left the confines of my like 1,000 square feet or however big my apartment is that I'm living in right now. It's
what
crazy.
do you mean one of those days? I've had I think I've had an entire year of those days now. Haven't we just hit the? Today's the 16th, right? Tomorrow's the 17th.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know when this is coming out, but this is like the year of shutdown order.
Wow.
We all went back inside.
We're going back to green. Someone said San Francisco is going to be green, and to this, that's the point where I was like, maybe I should learn the colors because I don't know.
Yeah, what is the color system?
What the fuck these mean?
That's where I feel like such a child when the government is talking to you like a preschool teacher. They're like, "All right, kids, it's back into purple time. Let's go back into our houses."
Listen, you can't do that. We're in red time, and I'm like, no, I don't know what the fuck that means. What the fuck? Why? And also, why are there so many colors? Purple, red, green, yellow, blue, like.
And we were just talking about orange. We're going straight past orange to green. What are we, fucking karate kids?
The fucking United States military has what they call DEFCON, right? Defense condition. It goes 1 to 4, right?
DEFCON.
And I'm like, that's what we should do. DEFCON.
Okay, I thought you said com.
It stands for defense
condition.
Okay. SOCOM. I don't know what that stands for. I never played those games.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
For Christ's sake, stop derailing me. It's fucking it's like 9 o'clock at night right now. They measure that by defense condition 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we should do this. Except I can't remember. I think we are always at DEFCON 4.
That's our resting state.
That's the resting state, and DEFCON 1 is the worst. That means we're basically at nuclear war.
DEFCON 1 sounds like that sounds like where we would want to be, though. We're at DEFCON 1, we've reached a sort of equilibrium. DEFCON 4 sounds like escalation.
So this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand why. I mean, that was going to be the thing that I said, hey, we should do this. But now it's just, that's confusing too. Yeah. So maybe we should just have like 3 stages for COVID. Don't go outside, go outside, go inside. Someone else is inside.
So let's start from before we met each other. I introduced you as the co-founder of Kind of Funny. So let's talk about what for the people that don't know, what Kind of Funny is.
So Kind of Funny is a company that I co-own with Greg Miller and Tim Geddes, and we are predominantly a podcast network where we talk about comic book movies in general, on one channel, TV shows, streaming stuff, and then on the other channel we talk a lot about games. Yeah, basically it's just long form content. We have some short form stuff too, but for the most part, podcasts about anything that's nerd culture we talk about. And we all came together and met each other at IGN back in the day, which is a media company that does largely what I just said as well. Game reviews, movie reviews, things like that. And then we struck out on our own back, like 5 or 6 years ago at this point. And yeah, we've just ever since started building a company, and now we have about 9 employees full time. And we're building out a big 4,700 square foot warehouse in Daly City to be our new production facility.
It looks fucking awesome. You guys have your own InfoWars headquarters. You're like,
we're
you're
basically
the antithesis.
what we set out to do was we were like, where is Alex Jones extreme enough? How can we
push it further?
How do we become the new Alex Jones slash
LED walls? We need
LED walls, but can we also say that LED walls are the secret pedophile ring that's running the nation? And if you have an LED wall, you're contributing. I don't.
Is that the dimensional gateway? The LED wall?
The LED wall is the dimensional
digital,
gateway to hell,
the digital
where
elves.
Where the Clintons run the child sex ring, and Obama is not from this planet; he's from Mars.
You checked all the boxes in one sentence there. That was incredible.
It's not really hard, man. I don't know. I should shut the fuck up because I don't listen to a lot of Alex Jones. I used to actually like listen to him on Rogan because he's bananas. But
he's just one of those. We had a word for him the other day. We were talking about him and Milo provocateurs.
Provocateur,
there it is.
Right?
That's a fun word to say, provocateur.
I think that Jones is different though. I think he, to a degree, like believes a lot of the things that he's saying, and I think he thinks he's got proof to back that up, and maybe he does. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here. I know all.
I have the documents. I have been to Bohemian Grove.
Seen it. I've seen the aliens. And
I have drinking the blood of the lamb.
And they smoked marijuana. I smoked a marijuana cigarette with a Martian named Dave. That's where we get the name Dave from.
He's actually a pretty chill guy.
He's actually a really cool guy. Told me that he had a 57 Chevy C10 truck that he wanted me to buy, but we
worked on it together for a whole summer, and it was the time of my life.
Dave is just a man from Florida.
He's just a guy like you or me.
Yeah.
All right, let's walk this back.
He's different than Milo. Milo's a little bit. That guy's definitely. I think he understands that he can be very polarizing, and that you can build an audience that way. And
Milo does it purely for the theater too. Milo is like. Milo's purely in it for the theater of the spectacle of what he's doing too. Like he's swinging for the fences. It sucks
because I think a lot of people don't realize that. I think a lot of people take him seriously, and I'm not saying that the things that he says you should support, because I think that I don't particularly think that that's something that we need necessarily in the world, or people that are just out there trolling people for no reason.
Stirring the pot.
That's adding. Yeah, I just don't think that's adding anything like positive to the world. Not that I add a lot of positive stuff to the world, because for the most part, I just say silly jokes and try to make people laugh. But I just feel like those guys, there's just a certain sect of people who are super popular on Twitter and then eventually get kicked off because they have to keep going more and more extreme with it because that's what their audience wants.
Well, it's like the problem of escalation with movies that we were talking about, where every year you have to go bigger. It has to be a bigger monster or a louder explosion or, it's more devastation.
Exactly that, right? Everyone's fighting for the whatever, like there's this big pot of attention, right? And everyone's fighting for their little slice of that. Everyone's fighting for their portion of that. And so, whenever you see people like Milo, the reason why he excels is because, well, what's going to get him the most amount of attention, whether it's good or bad? And that's what scares me, right? Is I don't like people who don't discern between the two, who don't care, who just go, there's the old adage of there's no such thing as bad news, right? Or bad publicity, rather, is what and I just think that's wrong, right? Like, why would you want to be in that world where you are constantly have 50% of the audience raging in support of you, and the other 50% of your audience just raging against you? I just feel like you're not really. I don't know. Maybe you're not adding something. Maybe you are adding something. But to me, it just seems like you're just out there stirring shit for no reason just to make some money, and that kind of seems gross.
Yeah, it's a fireworks show, and it's gonna fizzle out at some point, and then what do you do after that?
Well, you're gonna get kicked off Twitter, and then you got to go to Gabby or whatever the new.
Then you pivot and come out as ex-gay, and you just the ball keeps rolling. That's what. Yeah. Anyway, let's get off let's get off these guys. Let's go back to okay, I had a question. Where did Rooster Teeth, was that before IGN, after IGN, before Kind of Funny?
So we met all the Rooster Teeth people because Tim was a huge fan of Rooster Teeth coming in. So when we started working at IGN, he started reaching out to them to see if we could collaborate. And that's how we met Bernie. And also Bernie's now, I believe, wife, at the time, then girlfriend, Ashley Jenkins, worked at IGN. And so we knew her. And when she found out that Tim was huge fans, she hooked us up with them. We started making some content with them. We started going to Austin. And then when we left IGN, we kept in contact with them, and we partnered with another group to help us do some ad sales for some of our podcasts, along with some they just kind of were a management group. They called them not CDCs. That's the Center for Disease Control.
It's just top of the brand right now.
I forget the acronym for them, but multi-channel, the MCNs. Multi-channel networks that were they go out there and they find smaller channels and they help leverage their audience with the a big pool of audience, and you get better rates for your ad rates and stuff like that out of them.
Okay.
So we kept in contact with them, and then when our contract was sort of up with our old MCN, we kind of asked to be let go, and they were super cool about it. And we signed up with Rooster Teeth because they were forming then something called the Let's Play Network, based largely around what Achievement Hunter does, which is basically like gameplays and Let's Plays and podcasts and stuff like that.
Which
and
is
so we signed up with them.
And it's always so funny for me to hear you throw out all of these names like Let's Play, Achievement Hunter, Rooster Teeth, because when you and I first met, you told me that you were associated with all these guys, and that was I used to get IGN magazine all the time, and I used to watch their videos when they started getting into online content production, and loved the Let's Play videos and Achievement Hunter, and used to watch Red versus Blue endlessly, which is Rooster Teeth. Those guys, it was the Halo.
That was Jeff and Bernie, and that their story is it's interesting because I think when we part of the reason we wanted to sign up with them is I'm not going to sugarcoat it, right? They're great at what they do, and we felt that was a place where we could actually they wanted to help us grow our business. Yeah, it wasn't and this is no disrespect to the MCN we were with before. They were absolutely phenomenal, and the people we're working with there were great. But what really struck us was Rooster Teeth kind of knows how to their business is content production, so they understood that. And they had a sales team that knew how to sell that. So we knew that if we came on with them, they understood the language. They were a production company first and foremost with the sales team, and they were doing this new initiative, and they were only hand-picking certain creators that they knew they could work very closely with. So that was the first aspect of it. The other aspect of it was, sitting there hanging out with Bernie and Jeff and listening to them and Gus, listening to them tell the story of how Red versus Blue started and how they were they did it all, and they put it on their own server out of Bernie's house, and then they got a bill for $10,000 the next month because the video had been seen 4 million times or whatever it was, and they were oh my god, what do we do? And listening to them have to do those creative problem solving.
How the hell do you get a bill for people watching your video?
Because back in the day, there was no YouTube. You had to host that on your own site. And the deal they had with the server was for a specific amount of bandwidth. And once you exceeded that bandwidth, it started growing. It was basically you're probably too young to remember this. And Quinn is a zygote, so he doesn't understand it. But I love it, Quinn. But back in the day, it's the same with phones, right? Back in the day, you could only call locally. If you called outside of Riverside, where I grew up, if I called San Francisco or if I called New York, there were different rates that applied to that. Sure. And so now you don't think about that because we just upload it to YouTube, and YouTube.
I remember distance calls, you motherfucker.
You don't fucking know what the fuck. You fucking remember long distance calls because you do that shit ironically because you're a hipster. That
I'd get in trouble for it.
Shifts because everything has to be analog with you, except when you're on TikTok, fucking doing those. You're dancing a little bit. You go, and you snap your finger, and you're in a fucking evening gown or whatever you do.
And I'm just body rolling.
But basically, back then, they had to pay for all the server fees, and so the deal they set up was hey, they're oh, we'll put this up, but they probably didn't pay attention. They were oh, it'll get 100 views or 1,000 views or whatever. But when it got 1 million views, all of a sudden, anything over 1,000 was probably $1 or 10 cents per view that they had to charge for the bandwidth. So they had to figure that stuff out. And then he talked about, they told me a story about how when they got the DVDs made for Red versus Blue, season 1, and they wanted to sell those, they got them shipped to their house, but they didn't think about how much physical space 1,000 boxes takes up.
Oh my god!
So he was so Jeff said, I come home and there's I'm butchering the story, of course. If anyone in the audience like knows, like please leave a comment and subscribe to this YouTube channel as well. Let me know if I'm crazy. But he was like, yeah, I came home, there was like 4 pallets of DVDs on my front lawn.
Jesus
and he was
Christ.
like, shit, how do we get all these inside?
And you're just
So
waiting
it's like
for
things
the
like that
end.
that like really struck a chord with us, and we were like, well, this is a good place for us to go where we feel like we'll be taken care of, and they'll work with us, and they've been awesome.
Nice. Well, yeah, it kind of sounds like a lot of why anyone that's in the same creative field starts to congregate together, and why you and I started hanging out together is because you want to be around people that have the same kind of eye for things you do, and that have their own thing figured out, but can also help you figure out your thing, that push you, that excite you creatively, and that inspire you. And I guess that takes us to when we first met, which is I always forget if it was at Cobb's or if it was at Maggie's. Actually,
we met at Maggie's the first time.
I
So
thought
you
it
were
might have
running
been
that
at
mic
Milk
over there.
Bar.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been at Milk Bar originally because you were filming a documentary when I first met you. You were filming a documentary called Waiting for the Punchline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, for the people listening, where can they find that? Because it is a great documentary. I loved it.
It's actually on Rooster Teeth. So if you go to roosterteeth.com,
Okay.
you can search there. And I believe it's part of their subscription service, but you can sign up for a free trial and check it out. It's really, really good. And it's basically follows me trying to be, in the first couple of years of trying to be a stand-up and looking at the scene and, highlighting a lot of the very, very talented comics. Not me. I'm still freaking terrible at it, but I go back and watch that. And it's really cool because I'm like, I have progressed. I see the jokes that I have now, and I learned a lot from that. But it was awesome to be able to go to Milk Bar and to go to all the mics that I went to and just show people what that experience is like. And yours was one of them, and you were very, very, very helpful in getting us there. And we ended up doing our final show at Maggie's.
Well, if I could interject before we get to the Maggie's part, what I loved is you're talking about showcasing some of the process and the other comedians in the scene. I loved that your documentary kind of became the Tony Sparks hero story. It was interesting. Like the director was sort of just going out. When you're doing a documentary, it's not like you're doing a scripted narrative movie. You go out there and you interview tons of people and you generate a shit ton of footage and you sort of find the story. And this is what I learned from them, from Matt Hames and his production group. You sort of find the narrative in there and you find these threads. And so a couple people like Brady was featured there because he was like living in his car at the time. Yeah.
But one of the people that everyone kept talking about was Tony Sparks. And then when Tony would talk, he became sort of the secondary character in it. And we followed him because if you know anything about the SF scene, Tony is like, they call him the godfather of comedy up here because literally when I started, he hosted like every mic. Yeah. It was like, all right, Tony, where are you going to be tomorrow? Cool. I mean, he was at Brainwash. Somehow he was at other mics. He would do like, he was just everywhere.
Well, he was our Yoda. He was for whatever unknown reason, he was here for us. You would think that, that a guy like Tony Sparks would have been on the road and on to bigger and better things, but we were just so bountifully lucky to have him present in our scene as a mentor figure that was there for all of us in varying capacities and different locations. Because like you said, he was everywhere, and he really was like everyone calls him the godfather of Bay Area comedy, and he helped a lot of us take our first steps. And
he
so
did.
Yeah,
that's important, right? And I think that's just the general pattern I look for in my life, right? I like to be around people who I feel like are going to be like Tony's a perfect example of someone I like to surround myself with. He's knowledgeable. He's very funny. At his core, he's a very kind, sweet human being. But he will also fuck with you a little bit, especially when you have a bad set, or if you say something that he deems is not an appropriate thing for a new comedian to say because you don't have the juice to kind of follow it back up, right? Like, and that's like you mentioned him being Yoda. That's perfect. Like the first time we meet Yoda, what's he doing? He's fucking with Luke, right?
Yeah.
He's fucking with Luke just to
prodding.
let him know,
He's
like,
testing.
hey, you got a long journey ahead of you, homie.
Yep.
And Tony's that guy. Tony, you'd get off and you'd be like, I had an okay set at Brainwash or whatever. Like I got the 3 people that were paying attention. Out of those 3 people, I got one of them to laugh. And Tony would come off and just completely destroy you. And that's just sort of, I guess, his way of indoctrinating you, but also just letting you know like comedy is pain, and you're just going to be up for it's going to be horrible, horrible, horrible bombing, and with a little bit of a peak of, hey, I did pretty okay, and then horrible, horrible, horrible bombing. And the host, if he's doing his job, will make fun of you to bring the audience back up.
Yeah, he's doing that both for the room and the event, but he's also doing it for you to not let you walk off stage with any kind of mistakes or interpretations about what just happened. You know, he's going
Right.
to be very clear about whether that was a successful outing or a bit of a faltering. And he would always find a way to have that perfect, succinct note that he would give to the room to give the inherent laugh of commenting on what just happened, but also he would be giving that note to you as you were walking off stage. The other thing that he did that I loved is not only would he give you that note to get off stage with, but he was one of the most unique hosts with setting you up for your set, because he would give people hilarious custom intros that were very, very much tailored to. I'm curious if you had the same experience. I mean, you've seen him go out. Do you remember one of his intros for you? I remember he would bring me on stage and say, this young brother right here, man, he is really something. He looks like a sensitive Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
And
He would
just always have some little roast line that succinctly wrapped up your essence, your aura, and also your image.
It's one of those things where like that's just inherent to like who he is, and I always loved it because I was like, well, at the very, like, obviously you're very vulnerable, especially when you're first starting out, and I've always been the kind of person that can take a joke, right? Because I give people a lot of shit in my life, as you know, and I feel like it's only fair that if I give people shit, that if someone's gonna roast me a little bit, you got to take it all in stride. But also that is kind of what comedy is, right? You're up for whatever the roller coaster is gonna be, and so I think when I first started off, I was just kind of glad that he cared enough to pay attention to be like, this guy at least noticed a beard or something, like, oh, his beard's great, or and when I started doing the documentary, I was very I was kind of I was worried about it because I didn't know how that was going to come off in the community, because I there's always someone around shooting something, saying they're going to do something, and I just didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to be the guy that was like, hey, I'm actually working on a cool project that's got funding. It's going to go in front of millions of people, and they're going to see it, and it's probably not going to have. It's not going to be the atomic bomb that you want for everyone's career in SF, but hey, at least they'll get you a little of exposure here, and maybe if someone heard a funny joke, they might go look you up, and if you're in their town, maybe they'll remember that.
Even more than that, I think it's
positive.
Sorry to with online, it's so hard to not feel like you're cutting off or
no, you can always cut me off. I'm used to it. Don't worry about it.
But more than that, I think it's a cool like time capsule and just a moment in time and a look at San Francisco comedy scene, which you get a lot of documentaries about New York and LA, but rarely do you get a look at the other starter cities like San Francisco or Austin or Chicago.
That's always the funny thing about being an SF comic, right? Is that you're in a great market, but it's not the greatest market. And so I think there's so many pros and cons. We talk about this all the time, right? And obviously as COVID hits and people move to LA, or they move to New York, or they move to Austin, or they move to all these other places, like what are the pros and what are the cons of being an SF? But for me, it's cool because you can just really cut your teeth and develop. And I think we still have some very, very, very incredibly hard-hitting comics up here who are just killers, who are waiting for their time to move on to the next, I don't want to say level, but the next area or part of their careers. And so I think it's important because, you never want to be the best person in the room at anything. If you are, you got to go. What's the old adage, right? If you're the best person in the room, you got to go find another room. And so for me, that's one of the things I always pay attention to, and I'm trying to learn a new skill. I'm like, who am I surrounded by? If I've been doing this for 3 days and I'm better than the people that I'm hanging out with at this thing, I got to go find different people to hang out with. And to our scene's credit, I have never felt moderately good at comedy because the people I'm always on lineups with are great. I mean, we were kidding around when we first started this, but like Mark Smalls was your first, and rightfully so, guest on this podcast. And though I will never forgive you for it, and at the heart of it, I will probably sabotage your career. No, I'm joking around. Mark's fucking amazing, right? I've been on lineups with Mark, and I think to myself, I don't belong on this lineup. Like, I've been doing comedy for 4 years, and Mark's just leaps and bounds better than me.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about comedy too, is that when you're surrounded and really embedded in a thriving and alive comedy scene where there are fucking killers around every corner and nook and cranny of that city that you had no idea were even there. But then you step up onto that stage and into the arena and you're like, holy fuck, this is what I'm up against.
Yeah.
And so I guarantee, like, even though you've had those nights where you're like, fuck, Mark Small or whoever it is on this lineup tonight, what am I doing on this lineup? I guarantee you probably had a better set on that lineup than you did were they not there to raise the bar for you. You know what I mean?
So I've headlined before, right? Like I've done like the most amount of time I've done is 15 minutes, but I have been actually, I'm sorry, I wasn't a headline. I featured. I shouldn't say headline. Sorry, misspoke. That's as far as I've gotten before COVID hit and destroyed everyone, and then everyone went to their Zoom shows and they're just horribly sad. But I had a great set there. But you're absolutely right. I had a better set when I'm on lineups with killers because being the weak link elevates you first off. You work hard getting into it. You're like, if I'm doing a show with like, Mark Smalls and, like the show we did with Mark and Allie, I'm like, I gotta at least bring something better than I did last week. Whereas when you're sort of, a little bit more of the veteran in the lineup, maybe you don't work quite as hard. So I do agree. And also just, the audience is laughing when you go up. You do your time. Maybe they laugh, maybe they don't. But guess what? The next person's going to kill him anyway because it's freaking Mark. So
it inspires.
It's always so interesting.
It inspires, and it also instigates that hunger where you're right. You don't want to be the weakest link. You don't want to be the most forgettable set of the night. You want to be at least on par, if not, surprising people with your,
Yeah. The lowest bar that I want to hit is don't kill the vibe. That's always like, I don't know if you think that or not. Like I always, of course, you want to go out there and crush, but I've been around long enough and I know my material where I go, I'm going to have, I'm going to do my material. I think it's strong, it's fun, but at the very least, it's not going to bring the audience
ever
down.
They do a screeching halt. Yeah.
And that's like, I know that's a very low bar of quality to hit, but that is my bare minimum of what I need to do. If I feel like I'm not at that level, like I won't take the gig.
Yeah. For me, it's
to my credit, I think that for the most part, like I don't think I've ever tanked a set in a while, but there have been sets that have been rough.
Speaking of Mark, he was always so funny about keeping my ego level and resetting my expectations as far as what's a good set and tanking. And he was like, would always say, you may think you killed, but I guarantee you it was probably progress, but you're never killing as hard as you think you're killing. You're probably never bombing as hard as you think you're bombing either. However,
no, that's not true.
That is not necessarily the same. Yeah.
Mark's being nice to you when he says that.
No, he never says that. That's my part that I'm adding in there at the end.
Okay. I was like, that's funny because that doesn't sound like Mark.
Mark is you're never killing as hard as
he's fucking really brutally honest with you, which is good. It's what you need.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like but I mean, I don't think I've ever crushed because I've seen people who kill. I've seen people who've crushed, and I've never seen myself do that. So the most I've ever had is good sets where people have like, hey, good job, and that was fun, and you made me laugh a few times. That's good. I want to be worth the price of admission at this point.
There you go. That's a good, and that's respecting the craft and respecting the audience. I think that really, at the end of the day, the only person you have to compete with is yourself. You want to be better than your last outing and constantly be improving because you may say that you have never killed, but I guarantee you if you watch one of your sets from last week versus if you go back and watch that documentary,
oh dude,
you'll be able to say
I'm far and away better.
Yeah, at least you can perceivably say that, Anyway, so back on the topic of the documentary, you did pick two things that were very near and dear to the heart of the San Francisco comedy community as we're talking about Tony Sparks as Yoda, and you then picked the Punchline, which is a very kind of idealistic Mount Olympus-esque location and landmark, not just for the comedy community.
I timed it as we started doing this, and I pitched the idea of them where I was like, listen, I'm about a year into having gone to the Punchline. And what that means is theoretically, if the booker decides like I should be quote unquote due to go up for my first time. And in an ideal world, if I had the resources and we had the wherewithal, I would have pitched them on saying, hey, let's shoot this for the next 5 years leading up to my audition, dare I say, to get past that Punchline. But because who the hell knows? I mean, there's no guarantee that it's ever going to happen. I was like, how about we just build it? We build a project from what it takes to go from Brainwash to going up your first time at Punch.
Well, hold on. So let's
sort of how we want to bookend it.
let's pause there, because for the people that don't know about that process, which we know very well because it's our life, usually it takes a comedian anywhere from a year to, there are stories of 2 to 3 to 4 to, multiple years of just attending the shows at the Punchline in San Francisco, namely the Sunday Showcase, which is the local talent showcase. And you are there to support your comedy community, to, mingle and network with your fellow comedians, but also to kind of, show your face, and in a kind of ipso facto way also be demonstrating your commitment to your comedy career. Right. Like it's expected that. I had Paul Conyers, another very funny comedian in our scene, lay it out for me like this, where he's like, if you want to have
he did your fucking podcast too before me?
No. This was a conversation we had a long time ago about Punchline. But he was like, if you want to have a career in comedy in the Bay Area, you better consider the San Francisco Punchline Showcase as one of your shifts that you clock into every Sunday night. And you have, no reason to miss it. You shouldn't book shows that night. You shouldn't, if you have extraneous circumstances, whatever. But
yeah, like the only time I ever missed that show was if I had a Cobb's show. Like if someone was like, hey, I want to book you at Cobb's, or my anxiety of going to Punchline was so fucking high that I was just like, I don't want to go this week. So like, and I'll tell you, I listen to that voice in me way too often, but I think that's just part of it, right? And the whole thing is sort of designed, I don't think it's designed to be imposing, but it is definitely designed with the mindset that, hey, where you're at is an important place. And if you can't deal with the pressures of going up here on a Sunday Showcase, well, then you got to put more work in to be able to do that, or you got to pick a different career.
Yeah.
Because and that's one of the things that I hated and loved about Punchline. Oh, sorry, my cook zero deliveries here.
Hey,
person
on demand.
I know. I text her sometimes. She's like, God damn it, stop. Just get up and get yourself a Coke. But yeah, that's the thing about that place, because Punchline forever will be bittersweet to me, because I love it. It's amazing. I think it's one of the, as far as like the way it's laid out and the history of it, I think it's one of the coolest clubs on the freaking planet. But every Sunday is terrifying, and every Sunday I'd go in, I'm terrified I won't get picked, but I'm even more scared that I would get picked, because I just, you don't want to have
a bad set.
And I got, in spoilers for the documentary, I got to go up, and I did okay.
All right, so let me touch on that. Let me touch on that, because that's what I was trying to work at. Is that this is a big thing in your career as a San Francisco comic, is waiting for the Punchline.
Going up your first time at Punchline, being picked by the booker. So like, this is the thing too. Here's the thing to differentiate, right? You can go up Punchline whenever you want. You can book a show at Punchline and get a bunch of comics and sell a bunch of tickets and go up. That's not what we're talking about, right?
Being
like
selected.
I've been up at quote unquote Cobb's 5 or 6 times, right? I've done a bunch of shows, whether it be Jimmy's show or, a bunch of people's shows who are just promoting their own independent thing, similar to the show that we did on our boat. And that's great. And you are at a AAA club and you have a real audience, and that is a phenomenal freaking thing to do. And that level of performance is great. I'm not taking anything away from that. That's different than having the person who books talent at Punchline look at you and go, now's your chance, right? Go prove yourself to me. Go prove you have what it takes to potentially later down the road have me put you up a few more times, and then maybe give you an audition or start the audition process to be a paid regular here.
And so meanwhile,
or even an unpaid regular, someone who just gets booked on stuff through the actual club, and you get to mingle and hang out with, different stratospheres of comedians.
And so meanwhile, while every single local comedian is, or, not every single, but definitely all of the up-and-comers and the people that treat the Punchline with the appropriate amount of reverence and respect, like you said, it is a little bit intimidating, but for the right reasons, if it means the right things to you. So meanwhile, while all of these up-and-comers are shitting their pants about their first Punchline set, you fucking come over here and say, let me record a documentary based around this process and my first set. Let me immortalize digitally my first set at the Punchline, and
it was a good way to make sure that you pissed off a club, which is fun. But it was also just a great way to make sure you got some really good footage of a set.
I wouldn't say you pissed him off. I would say you definitely made yourself memorable. I mean, having been a comedian and a comedy club employee at the time, I remember the talk about coming in and filming a documentary, and I don't think you pissed anybody. Like, you would come out and hang at
you have to sort of, like, when you do a doc like that, so it's stressful enough to do comedy shows.
Yeah.
And so, imagine you're like, I'm stressed out. I just had fucking someone I booked, or 3 people. I mean, you've booked comedy shows before, so chances are 4 out of the fucking 5 comics that you booked for the show don't show up, or text you like 5 minutes beforehand, hey, my fucking dog ate a Cheez-It or whatever, and now I'm worried about it. I can't come to your show, right?
Yeah.
So add on top of that, hey, Shlamol over there with the beard's going to bring a camera crew in to film this, and they're going to have to get rights releases from people. I had to put, I had to lean on the Punchline a little bit more than I'm comfortable with, just to get access to them, because they're owned by Live Nation, and Live Nation's like, what the fuck do you want to do? Like, no. And plus, it's a comedy show. Like, the one thing that you don't ever really want in a comedy show for comics to feel comfortable is a big fucking camera that might be showing your work to other people if you're not comfortable with that. Although I have flipped the switch on that one. I think it's incredibly important to film your sets and put them out there, because that's how things are done now.
And when you're ready to present it.
Yeah, you're not quite sure what the fuck the camera's for. You don't know. Like, people knew me, but I was very new in the scene at the time, and so I didn't want to be like, hey, I'm filming your set, and have them be like, well, what are you filming it for? I'm like, well, I'm filming it for an anti-comedy piece that's going up on freaking some fringe news network, and so we're gonna try to, no one ever knows. But Punchline in general, like, you don't really, I wanted to go through the proper channels, because we wanted to take it to film festivals and stuff like that, and I wanted to make sure that we had, me and the director and the producers wanted to make sure that we had every possible I dotted and T crossed to make sure all the rights were ours to show this thing and to show people's work. And like, I never wanted a comic to be like, hey, you film my set and you put this in this documentary, and I didn't really want that to have happen. That was pretty important to me, that everyone that was featured in there wanted to be featured, their work was featured, they were comfortable with that, and they knew the value and the benefit of potentially having that happen. And getting that done, and then also, I had to I had to email the booker at Punchline and be like, hey, we're doing this thing. I know I'm not saying, like, put me up, but, it's been a year and it's up to you. I'm just letting you know where I'm at in the process, so, and where we're at. If it happens to coincide with you feel comfortable and you think it's the right thing to do to put me up, then I'd love to film it. I'd love to have a camera crew on that night, but I can't afford to have a camera crew come every Sunday for fucking 2 years. So, like, could you give me a rough ball? Like, and that's a thing to do that's way outside of my comfort zone, because normally I don't like to be that upfront with people. I like to put the work in, and when people look at it and they recognize it and go, okay, now Nick, it's your shot, I like to be ready for it. So there's a lot of stepping out of my comfort zone for that. But it was a great project, and it turned out really great. I think it inspired a lot of people to do various creative endeavors in their career,
which is the best you could hope for. And I think in that way, it's worth putting yourself in that uncomfortable space, because you're putting yourself out there, but you're also putting this piece out there artistically, and capturing that process, informing people of your steps in the journey and how they can adapt that to their own hero's tale. But also, you're capturing a bit of San Francisco history with Tony Sparks and the Punchline, and even with Maggie's. I mean, even though it's not really a part of the comedy community anymore, for various reasons.
At that time.
Well, and at that time, and also
what was so cool about that time was that A, no COVID, fuck COVID, but B, it was you had those 3 clubs that were all right there, which was so cool. And so you could go to, I mean, I remember going over to Taupe Lounge, signing up, going over to Greenwich on, what was it?
Grant Green.
Green and Greenock? Yeah.
Grant and Green.
Grant and Green, thank you. Signing up over there. And then like I think maybe it was a different night, your club was going, but I think there was a moment where like all 3 of them were going. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm.
We did our shows on Tuesdays when the mics were going as well. So on Tuesdays,
so there was always like 3 shows happening, but they were happening in like a half a block radius. Yeah. So you'd literally have a cocktail at Taupe, finish it. You could potentially walk the cocktail over to Grant and Green or over to Maggie's, hang out there for a little bit, and then in the span of all that, see a 3rd show and maybe even do 3 mics or if you could get a guest set on whatever show Austin was doing, that'd be cool. That time is, the mics were still happening, but they weren't happening with that frequency, because that's one of the things that you learn early on, is that mics even the ones that are good can just vanish. They can just up and disappear. Maybe the host doesn't want to do them anymore. Maybe the bar doesn't want to do them anymore. Maybe
so many little incidental things too, like a fight will happen or some bullshit. So many mics have come and gone, and so it was a fun little capturing of a moment in time, if you will. But also, no one really films shit at the Punchline. It's not one of those venues that you record things at because it's a little smaller and intimate, and it's really there for the live experience. But because of that, it's not as cataloged in history as, say, the Comedy Store.
Right.
Or, any, theater. You don't really the Punchline is so historic, and there have been so many fucking moments and memories and weekends and giants in the game that have come through there. But
I'll tell you what though, if I ever get to a point where I'm filming like an hour special, I would love to do it at Punchline. Yeah. I think that place that room is so perfect. It's the perfect size. It's the perfect vibe. It's the acoustics in it are perfect. And again, it's no disrespect to like Cobb's, but I just feel like that's what comedy should be, is that little, it feels like a club. Cobb's feels like it's a club, but it's more, it's just a giant, it's more of an event space. Yeah. Whereas Punchline feels like you gotta like squeeze by people to get up on the fucking stage. Like people could reach over and touch you if they want, because you know what I mean? Like it's a much more intimate feeling. And that to me is where I want my career to be right now. I don't understand. I don't know that I'll ever understand doing comedy for like thousands of people. But maybe you just get tired of making 200 people laugh. Maybe if you're Dave Chappelle, you're like, well, I guess the economics kick in and you go, I'd like to make fucking $30,000 a show or whatever it is. So let's go to the Kodak Theater and sell that shit out.
Yeah, I think it's easy to say that now, but given the opportunity, you'd be in fucking Madison Square Garden.
Well, I mean, like,
with your kind of funny LED floor with the smiley face.
Well, when my company's done live events and stuff like that, obviously the sky's the limit, right? How many people can we get in that place in that one period of time? And so when we did, I think the biggest live event we did Kind of Funny Live 2, and I think we had, I want to say close to 1,000 people there.
You were at Bill Graham, or where was it?
Huge. No, it was at the Regency Ballroom.
Hell yeah.
Which is a fucking great venue. If you've never done it before, it's so cool. But mostly they have proms there. Yeah. But it is a perfect venue for like that level of show. Like I think the full thing seats like 1,500, 2,000 people in the main ballroom. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool. But that's cool for a one-day show. But what I love about the clubs that we frequent is that those are the places where you go where you can relax and the audience is going to be there and manageable, and it's not going to be a roar of a crowd, and you don't have the LED walls and the mics and all the fucking, like, you don't have to have a runner show. You just get up and you just do whatever the hell your set is, and then you leave, and it's nice.
Well, and it feels like the most not boiled down, but just true to expectation comedy club experience. Like it's just this intimate little room in the middle of a big city, and it's like you said, you're so close that people could touch you, and it's just you and them, and the acoustics are tight. It doesn't go anywhere into the back, and the bar is right fucking there, and it's just you and those 120, however many people are in there, So I love that you captured that, and I love, a lot of people will say, and I know that you feel like it was outside of your comfort zone, and that people could say you ruffled feathers at the Punchline, or however you feel about that. I really don't, whatever, even at the end of the day, if you did, I think it's a very ballsy and cool way to not only enter the scene, but capture that. And also it is a love letter and a gift to the comedy community, even if they don't recognize it, because one day, if they wanted to, they could go back and see the mics that they cut their teeth at, and, I agree. The club that they idolized for so long, and that mural that brought them, so much joy when they would walk into the room, and so much fear when they would, start to approach for their first, God, can you remember walking down that little side hallway you got the tap? It's your night. For you're fucking filming a documentary that night. So I can't even imagine.
Talk about adding extra anxiety to the night, where I'm like, is the camera right? Is she in the right place? What's going on? Like, are we gonna get good audio? So I'm gonna walk in front of this thing. Like,
it's so fucking funny. Sorry.
We had to work with. We didn't get the permission to film inside until Kyle finally came. Was able to kind of put some pressure on Live Nation and get them to sign off on it. But it was unfortunately after we had wrapped the principal photography, if you want to call it that, of the documentary. So I finally was like, hey, I talked to the director and he was like, we got to get you going up. Like this has to, if you're going to go up like anytime in the next few months, let me know. We'll figure it out. But like whenever you think it's going to happen, like let me know and we'll try to get a camera up there. And I was like, I think like I have a feeling about this Sunday. So like if we bring a camera there, let's just try it. That'll be our last ditch effort. And then if not, I can have someone film my set with their phone and we'll just see if we can't get the clearance for it later. And thank God Ron was like, you know, he gave me shit for it, but he let me go up, which was really, really cool of him. And so I'll always owe him one for that. And I did okay. And I'm the one thing I'm happy about is I didn't, and this is the thing that people don't understand for Punchline is like, you don't want to have a terrible set. One, because then that just looks badly on you. It's not good for your career, right? The booker's going to look and go, "Wow, you don't have you got to go develop your shit more." But the more salient thing is that there's nothing worse than bombing in front of every comic in San Francisco.
Oh yeah,
and
well,
they're
that's
all fucking there, and we've seen it. I'll never forget. When people
don't you dare name names. Don't you?
I'm not
going to
name names, but we've all seen people who have just for whatever reason had an off night and just, you know, and it's so painful to watch because you have the added pain of knowing that, you know, at the appropriate time, maybe not tonight, maybe not a month from now, but 6 months from now, someone's going to give you shit for that. Someone's going to bring it up and be like, so-and-so completely shit the bed that night. And so like, you don't want to have you don't want to have a memorable set for the wrong reasons. Let's just put it that way.
You want to be perfectly unmemorable at the Punchline. I mean, you want to stand out, but if you blend in, that's almost
really, really well. That's what you want to be. But you don't want people to remember you for how bad a thing you did. And I went back and I watched that set when it was in the documentary, and I was like, you know what? I got some laughs, and I didn't do great. It's not a great set, but I didn't bomb completely, and so I was happy about that. I had learned what I needed to learn from the prior year of experience and whittled my set down to 7 minutes of pretty bad comedy that got a few laughs.
Which is, I mean, that's what those sets are. They're like investor presentations of prototypes, and it's a proof of concept. And this is where I am now, and with a little bit of, you know, funding / support from the community. Not that you actually need funding, but, you know, funding in the way of support and belief and props and bookings and opportunities in terms of stage time. You say, this is where I'm at now. And, you know, people either buy in or they don't. I mean, not that they don't, but they may say, come back and show me something else.
Comedy, right? Is like you start, and it's one of those processes where people go, oh, good for you. You're just gonna do, you know what I mean? Oh, good for you. And then in the back of their mind, they're like, he's not gonna stick with this thing, right?
Yeah.
And then they come to your first show. Everyone comes to your first show, right? You get all the bringer shows. Your whole family comes up, and you got 20 people there, and you crush because all your family's there to support you, and you think it's gonna be like that all the time, and it's not. And then the real work sets in, and you have to start the upward grind of the hill climb. And part of that is don't shit the bed at Punchline, or if you get a shot to go up on a Cobb showcase, don't shit the bed. Like, don't.
Well, that's what's so funny.
You know, put the work in.
That's what's so funny about that club. To call back to what you just pointed out, we talked about this on a previous episode where I talked about my first time going up to Punchline and just seeing a show like before I started working at Cobb's. And they sat me in like the right rafter, which, you know, now I know I was sitting with all the comics, and I had no idea, but the back walls of that room are entirely lined with comedians, and the announcer says it when they, you know, start the show. He said, give it up for all your comedians in the back. And you can just then feel that you're, oh my God, you're like in the enclosure with the animals all of a sudden. You see the eyes and the bushes start to light up.
Oh yeah, man.
But
there's nothing like that feeling.
No, yeah, I know. And then the funniest thing too about when it is your time to go up, it's such a small room that you're just like along this little wall, like 2-3 feet removed from the stage. So it's very clear to the entire room of people who's up next. Yeah. So they're kind of just looking up. They're looking up at you, and you're like, I guess it's me. I guess it's my time.
Like, I'm so excited for you. It's a range of emotions, right?
Yeah, they're like
When your
giving you the,
especially your friends, when your friends get to go up, your first emotion is I'm so fucking excited for them. Your
Mhm.
second emotion is I'm so terrified for them that they're good. Like I'm so terrified, and then there's like 2% where it's like, God
Yeah,
damn it,
I'll
they
get-
go up, and that's so cool. But maybe I'll get to go up next week. I don't know.
One
So
of
it's
these
like
days.
envy is a little bit part of it, but it's just that range of emotion of like, oh my God, I just hope. Like when you went up your first time, I think I was there, and I was like, and I think I was there when Janesh went up his first time too, and I was like, I'm so scared. It's like watching your child do a high dive for the 1st time. I'm like,
Just don't fall.
don't fucking fall.
Just stick
Yeah.
the landing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'll get Janesh on one of these days when he finds a level of maybe we'll have to do him virtual as well.
You
But
do virtual maybe, and that'd be fun.
but it's so funny. I remember one night we were sitting in there, and it is fun. Like, as much as you desperately want to be picked, there are nights where you're like, please God, not me.
Don't fucking pick me,
Please,
dude.
God.
I've never been happiest
Mm-hmm.
than the nights that I don't get picked.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, maybe I haven't been up in a while.
Yes.
Maybe I'm just having one of those particular
It's
weeks
like-
where I'm just having zero confidence in my material.
It's like one of the nights where you're drunk driving and you don't get pulled over, and you're just like, oh, thank God, I made it.
Yeah.
Not
I mean,
to,
but there's nothing like that.
don't drink and drive,
release.
kids.
No, don't drink and drive.
But
if you just drink an Uber. That's what everyone does.
there you go.
There's nothing like that release of I didn't get picked, and it's like right around the time when the last like 4 or 5 comics go up, you're like, oh, like actually I remember because everyone was always like, it's hour 2. If you don't get picked by hour 2, you're fine.
Yeah.
You can relax because like Ron never put up, super new comics in the second hour of the show. Leading
Or-
up to whoever's going to like close out the show, because sometimes they'd have like a headliner that was in for the weekend at Cobb's, and he'd come in, and
Yeah.
they're like, we don't want the second half of the show to be shit. So I'll never forget, like, people would go out and smoke fucking spliffs outside, and I'd be like, oh my God, it's almost time to go. And then you start doing the thing where you're like, can I just put an hour in? Do I have to put 2 hours in? Do I have to be seen for 2 hours? Or
Yeah,
can I
and
just
that's a
do 1
slippery
hour,
slope.
go out and smoke cigarettes and fuck around outside for the next hour? I don't know.
It's a slippery slope.
I know.
Yeah, almost the better feeling though, I think, was when you did finally get your set in, and you had you're never gonna walk out of there feeling like you're fucking Rocky on
Right.
I mean, you do internally, you're like, fuck yes, I got up, I did my set, one step closer, but you're always gonna have notes on your performance, and like you said, it's not the best set, but I didn't bomb, and you weigh the pluses and minuses.
Right.
But the feeling of the clock resetting after that, where you're like, oh, I've got months before I'm picked again. I got
At least
time.
2 months before I'm going up again.
I got time
At
to work on
least.
my shit. I can go
You
run
fucking
it.
walk in that next Sunday. You're buying cocktails. You want to drink? Are we drinking tonight? Is that what we're doing? Like you're getting sloshed over in the corner. You're actually enjoying everyone else's sets for the first time because you're not terrifyingly going over your set the entire time and like writing new notes and trying to generate new material.
And then you see
You're just
the
having a good
people.
time.
You see
And
the people whose
that's when
numbers
Punchline's
almost
at its-
up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when like those clubs are at their best, right? Where this is the sad thing about COVID and the sad thing about just the state of comedy in general is that we don't get the hang anymore. Like it's very difficult to go to a show and hang where, we're all behind masks. You're not really supposed to be near each other and stuff like that.
There's always supposed to be
But, like,
so
with
many people there, and so you can't congregate on the
Yeah.
on the street. And
But
Yeah.
that was always like what I had hoped Punchline would get to, which is that when you are passed, and I'm sure you get nervous before going up anyway, but then you're the senior class and you get to hang out in the green room, or you get to hang out by the green room, and you can relax and you can experiment a little bit.
and
you
it's a
can kind of-
workshop.
yeah, you can workshop stuff, use it for what it's supposed to be, like where you're going out, you're generating new material outside in the world, and you're coming in here to make sure it's good.
Yeah, it's the dojo.
Yeah, it's exactly. But like much like a dojo, right? Or just like a jujitsu gym, right? I look forward to those moments before and after the roll.
Yeah.
I love that time when you come in a little earlier and there's like 2 or 3 of your homies and you're just chilling, like, yo, did you fucking watch that thing on Netflix or hang out or whatever? And then you roll, and then it's like someone starts talking about something, and you look at your watch and you're like, shit, I've been here for like 30 minutes. And we've been done working out for 30 minutes. Like, I got to go home. I got shit I got to do. But that time just passes because you're having so much fun with the camaraderie. And that's really what I miss. I miss the camaraderie. I got into comedy for the camaraderie, for the ability to perform and be around other performers.
Mhm.
And it's hard to do that right now. But we'll get back there.
Yeah, I mean, we got shit like this, but yeah, it is hard to feel that camaraderie when you're just logging onto Zoom and being like, well,
Yeah, exactly.
I've been
mute your mic.
working.
And then every third word gets clipped by the fucking gain control on your mic.
Yep. Yeah. But we're creeping back towards that. We had a little bit of, I guess, jumping forward in the timeline now. We had a little bit of a taste of freedom with comedy coming back around Thanksgiving weekend. We did our it was Thanksgiving weekend, right?
It was Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, Thanksgiving weekend.
Somewhere around that. Yeah.
We did
I
our
remember
boat show.
it was somewhere around there. It was so fun. Yeah, you and I have been talking about doing a show together for a while, and we just bummed around San Francisco trying to find cool venues for it that were COVID compliant. And one of the things we stumbled upon was these boats.
Yeah.
Out in the harbor, the red and white fleet.
Shout out.
Super fun. Yeah, exactly. Man. They were super fun to work with, and very, very like stoked on the idea of trying things on the boat, specifically stuff that could happen maybe after hours, because a lot of people don't take tours of the bay when they can't see anything. And so I think it was cool, and I think they were game for it because they were able to do it safely and use it as sort of a test case for when restrictions did get lifted, what that show could be. And I'm so excited for what that can be.
Yeah.
Because if you tell me there was going to be a cruise with like 100 people on it, just hammered listening to comedy, dude, that sounds like a fucking fun Friday and Saturday night right there.
It takes the best and worst aspects. Well, no, sorry. It takes the best aspects of a cruise and a comedy show in that it gets rid of the worst aspects of a cruise where you're stuck with those people. I mean, you're on the cruise for 2 hours, but it's not like, a week.
Goes by fast.
It's not a week. It's not the same thing, and
you're not stuck in the middle of, like, I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise, man. There's nothing weirder than being in the middle of the ocean, looking around and not seeing anything but ocean.
Yeah.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah.
This is more of a part of a club that's floating and happens to have a dramatic dynamic backdrop that's ever changing as it goes around.
That was the coolest
the city
thing.
Is stunning at night.
Yeah, that was such a trip. I remember when we found that place, we were walking by and I was like, let's go talk to these fucking boat people. And
cool.
fuck a parklet. Let's get on the water and do, like, if outdoor is the way to go, let's do the most interesting outdoor comedy experience we could try to come up with. And we found ourselves out on the bay. And then it was like, I remember as we were going out for the first show, there was a moment where we're departing from the pier, and we've got our little music playlist going. All of our colored lights are on there, the mics in the stand, the stools out there. And we're just kind of watching the city all lit up. It was a beautiful fucking clear night.
Stunning clear night.
And you and I were just kind of looking at each other like, holy shit, what did we just do?
Who made this happen?
Yeah, and then we got to go up and do it and be the show and, just see it all kind of come to fruition and be what it was. And it was so much cooler than I think either of us were expecting, even though we knew it was going to be badass. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing too, is I'm like, to me, I was like, I hope this is a fun experience for the audience. And more importantly, I hope it's a fun experience for the feature and the headliner.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want to do is, you never want to like provide a bad experience for anyone. And I think that that's important. And I wish, or actually I shouldn't say it that way. I'll phrase it positively. The producers of shows that I really respect are the ones that recognize that needs to extend to the comedians as well.
Yeah.
So, if you're running a show where you're just treating comedians like they're just fucking time fillers for you to put some money in your pocket, or time fillers for you until you get your setup. If you're not respecting your show, then
why should they?
Why should I respect you? And so, especially when you're dealing with people who are like paid regulars at the Comedy Store, these are people who are used to performing at a certain level.
Yeah.
And so to be able to come close to that level, or to provide a new experience that still hits on the same level, just tangentially, is, makes me proud. It's cool that we did that. It's fun that's a show that I could literally invite any comic on the planet to come do, and they're gonna go, this is fucking weird and silly and fun. We're gonna have some fun. Like, they're gonna have a cocktail and go, okay, this is fucking cool. I can do this show. This will be fun.
Well, I mean, that's the coolest thing, is that you get your cocktail and then you're just out there and the city's moving behind you, and it's like, it takes all of the best. I just said that about cruises, but also about parklet shows and outdoor shows in the city. It takes all the best aspects where you get that feeling of being in the city and contributing to the artist community and having a live experience again. But it takes away all the negative side of, like, I'm sure you've experienced at these outdoor parklet shows. You get fucking skaters going by, the bus comes and
fucking
squeals on their brakes.
You get the dudes that are coming by like with hella loud cars and shit. And you get like, my favorite is the people who just walk through it and act like you're putting them out.
Oh yeah.
Where you're like, dude, come on.
And you
know
get
what I mean?
drive-by
Like,
heckles now. I love drive-by
God.
heckling is my favorite thing to come out of outdoor comedy shows. People just going by, you suck.
I'm like, fucking, you're so right.
It feels like such an 80s movie or like a 90s movie or something. Like, you know, we're just in that montage where nothing is quite going the way we want it to go, and we're just
first act of the movie.
we're pushing
and you're
through.
like, yeah, before you figure out like the fucking time travel device, and you just get a full milkshake thrown at your face.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Right as after you're set up for your joke, here comes the milkshake. You should quit.
Fucking yeah. Oh god, yeah. I don't know. But I mean, even those I like. I don't know. Kudos to the people who are running the parklet shows.
100%.
Kudos to everyone that's out there doing those, because it's not easy. It's a lot more work than a normal show.
Yeah.
And there's the added stress of making sure you have to keep everything safe. Meaning you have to have, for people who don't know, when we go and do these shows, everyone has to wear masks. You're generally staying as far apart from each other as possible. And you have to switch. You have to either bring your own mic, or the host has to, or the promoter has to, excuse me, the producer of the show has to provide a mic for you that's been sanitized and stuff like that. And so
There's
you
no
take every precaution. But
there's
like,
no
in
kissing at the
prior
orgies.
years- What's up?
Nothing. I said there's
Oh,
no
there's
kissing
no-
at the orgies.
Oh yeah, I know you can't. Yeah, you can only. Yeah, you got to wear the blindfold still at the orgies. Wow, they got dark. But yeah, but you know, as opposed to normal shows where it's like the mic's up, let's go.
Yeah.
Anything goes, and it's rowdy and it's crazy, and the comics are all hanging out in the back, getting way too drunk for their sets. That's the fun part.
Yeah, and we've been able to capture the best parts of that, and then we don't have any of the, you know, the bullshit that we don't want on our crew. You know, I can't wait for that cruise show to come back.
We're
I
gonna
want to
bring
get
it
back on
It's
the
gonna be
water.
super fun.
Hopefully, when we get into green or whatever the fuck we need to be in for these guys to feel
Everyone go out there,
comfortable again.
go follow Comedy on the Bay.
Yeah.
On the Instagram account and on Twitter, so you can figure out when the next one's coming. And follow me too at Nick_Scarpino.
Yeah, well, let's start. Before we get out of here, I wanted to plug one more thing that you've been doing. Your guys' Twitch channel has been blowing up a lot, and you're doing content almost every day now.
Every day.
Every day.
So every day from 11 o'clock to, depending on what goals we hit, but usually till 2 o'clock. We're streaming on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. Just fun, just having fun. Today we did Mario 3D World and Warzone. We stream all sorts of stuff. Sometimes we just watch funny clips at the end of our gameplay streams, and it's just a good time. It's a good hang for people, especially when they're stuck indoors working from home. They can fire us up and watch me try desperately to win my 10th Warzone match or whatever it is, and just have a good time.
And more than that, break this down for me, because we logged onto your Twitch channel the other day, and we're watching a little bit about what you've been telling me that your newest kind of venture has been with Kinda Funny, is that you guys are in something called fan-controlled football.
Yes. So we
and
partnered with,
from what I understand, it's like Final Fantasy, where you have like it's a real-time strategy experience, and you're,
I mean, very close to it, right? Like they reached out to Greg, our founder, one of my co-founders, a couple years ago, and said, "Hey, we know you're a big sports fan. We're starting this new league, kind of like arena football.
it's like Final Fantasy meets Madden, but with real life players."
Yeah, it's Madden basically, but with real life players. And what that means is you can log into Twitch if you have an account, and there's a little widget on the left, or you can download the app, and you get to pick the offensive plays, and the team does them. So you can pick, if enough people vote, you can vote on a running play or a passing play. You vote on the route they take, and you vote on pretty much everything. I mean, at a certain point, I think you vote on whether or not, if something's contested, you get to have a say in whether or not that thing should be challenged or not challenged.
I guess it is just Madden. I just like to keep calling it Final Fantasy, because I like
Final Fantasy.
I like picturing them just sitting there idle, waiting for the fans to vote on the move.
It is like a live action Madden game, and it's super fun. And we got some great people in the league, and the games are fast. We're dealing with a 50-yard field. There's no kicking in the game at all,
except to the groin.
What's that?
I said except to the groin.
Yeah, you can. There's eye gouges and kicks to the groin and kicks to the 2-hole. Absolutely.
And they're using your big mug for the team logo, right? They're using your face for the mascot.
Technically, yes. So we work with a gentleman named Johnny Ace. He's very elusive, and does not show up all the time. He is a pro tennis player.
Bit of an
who
enigma.
happens to look a lot like me. And he comes in and does podcasts with us every once in a while. And when we got to, because everything's voted on by the fans, we got to vote on the name and the mascot for the team. And they love Johnny Ace so much that, you know, they put a tennis player on our football team. On our football jersey.
Just because I guess that's how gaming fans understand sports. They're like, we could put a tennis player on a football team. It's, you know, it's sports. It's balls. It's the same
more
thing.
Because our audience are fucking bonkers and they think it's hilarious. And they understand that no one's going to get the joke and they don't care. To put it in context, we were almost called the Milk Mommies, but which is a
and I pushed
meme.
hard for that. I pushed
wanted Milk
real
Mommies
hard
so
for Milk Mommies.
Unfortunately, the organization pushed back and said, "Hey, we don't think people will understand this reference to the Milk Mommies," who we're referring to one of our employees who took a picture. Not a very flattering picture of himself. Put it on Instagram, and everyone said from that he was the mommy, and then he was the Milk Mommy, and now he is the Milk Mommy. And we were like, we're gonna be the Milk Mommies. But just saying it out loud right now, you're like, thank God it didn't go that way. Because if ESPN had to report on the Milk Mommies winning the championship, then I don't think the organization would have lasted very long.
They just would have gone MMs on you guys and just messed up the whole joke.
Yes,
Milk Mommies are coming down the
no
court.
Joke. This is the problem. When you have audiences that these in-jokes pop up, people go, what is that in reference to? You go, this. And they go, I don't get it. And you go, I don't get it either. It's just hilarious. It's basically just trolling one of my employees, which is
Milk
funny.
Mommy's really making it rain out on the court, out on the field. Is it a court or a field? I don't know.
Cows dressed. They're like, who? We could have done cows, right? We could have done the you know what I mean? They could have been like not bulls, just cows. Who you know? That would have been good.
Well, hell yeah,
But I
dude. I mean,
digress.
I've yet to see a full game, but I understand you guys are going into the championships now. So, I mean, that's how I usually watch football and all these other sports anyway. I wait for the big game. So, I guess I'll have to tune in for the championship.
Well, this is it. Yeah, our championship game is happening next Saturday. My team is made it. The Wild Aces versus the Glacier Boys are dropping this Saturday, I believe, 6 p.m. And they're going to square off, man. It's going to be the last game of the series. And there's also going to be another one that I believe is the third and fourth place team are basically battling it out for a secondary championship too. So there's going to be a couple games next Saturday, which will be fun.
Hell yeah. Well, I think we're running a little long here, so we'll wrap it up. But anything else you want to plug before we get you going? And we'll definitely get you back. I want to get you here on with Janesh too, so we can talk about some of our
we'll
road
get
adventures.
in. We'll talk.
Do a little duo episode. Get you. I mean, we'd have
nitty
to.
gritty stuff. We'll get a little dirtier too.
We'll all get
we were
vaccinated.
very professional today. I thought we were going to talk about what we were talking about beforehand, which was dudes bending over and showing you the buttholes and balls at the same time.
Balls from the back?
You
no, I wasn't going to do balls.
Yeah,
I want you
balls
to
from
have
the
something
back.
that
I
you
thought
can.
that's what we were going to call this episode, Nick Scarpino and balls from the back. Like, I didn't know you're going to get all professional on me. I had to put my real thinking cap on.
I wanted you to have something that you could share with we'll get into all of our dumb fuckery in the future.
Yeah,
we gotta have
dumb fuckery because I'm tired of being professional. I want to do some dumb fuckery and say things that, make people giggle. I want to make people giggle.
I was trying to save you from your audience. I know that there's trouble in paradise right now, so I didn't want to shake up the pot too much.
Oh no, all right.
I wanted.
My audience fucking knows me, right? There's no. They'll be fine. They're good.
All right. Well, where can people find you online aside from Kind of Funny Games and Kind of Funny, your website, and also roosterteeth.com to check out the documentary Waiting for the Punchline?
Oh yeah, you can follow me on any social media platform at Nick_Scarpino on Twitter and Instagram. Those are the best places to see me. And then if you want, go over to youtube.com/kindoffunny and subscribe to that channel. And while you're at it, go over to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames if games are more your thing, and subscribe there.
Hell yeah, doggy. Well, thank you for making the time to come on today, and in the midst of your hours and hours of you've got an almost entirely digital existence now. You're almost always in front of the screen on the camera.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm a real person or not anymore, but you got to do what you got to do. I don't know if working from home has made it more effective or if it's just wearing on me and killing me, but hey, we're going to do what we got to do.
You're just building that catalog online so one day we can digitally immortalize you and put your frozen head on a monkey and it'll say all the things you used to say, all the fun, horny things.
The monkey's going to be like, and then balls from the back, and only Austin's going to laugh. Austin's like, that fucking monkey gets it.
This is my monkey buddy.
Funny. That monkey's understandable.
Well, I love you, dude. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
Wow. What an episode. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, share with your friends. Tell your people. Tell them that they can come be people with our people. And we could all be people of Earth together. Make sure you follow us online. We want to hear from the people, so send us an email, reach out to us, and stay tuned for more. We'll see you next time.
Good morning, people of the earth.
We interrupt our program at the request of the White House.
This is a test.
Some very strange events have been taking place recently.
The emergency broadcast system.
This is only a test.
Furnishing news, official information, and instruction as soon as possible.
Is there a point to all this? Let's find a point. The world is like a ride at an amusement park.
This is only a test.
This is just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money. A choice right now between fear and love.
A small group of warriors have taken up the fight on your behalf.
It's been activated to keep you informed.
The Earth is where we make our stand.
You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful.
People of the earth.
People of Earth.
People of earth.
If you are not,
People.
tune to a station furnishing information for your area.